100 tons of fish, hauled from a river that never sleeps. $900,000 waiting somewhere between ice and diesel. At dawn, the Mississippi exhales a thin mist over steel hulls and quiet men. Engines growl, nets unfurl. The water answers, with silver flashes, a storm of living metal. They are the invaders, Asian carp. Fish that leap at sound, strike at speed, and choke the life out of a river. They were never meant to be here. Yet now, they rule these waters. Each catch today is both survival and sentence. Permits stamped, mesh measured at 4 inches. Every log signed. Every pound chilled to 32 degrees before the ice locks it in place. Hasseep sheets pinned to the cabin wall, proof that order still matters in chaos. But rules can't quiet the wind. Just 60 miles north, the Great Lakes wait calm, vast, fragile. One failure in the barrier, one careless hand. And the invader moves again. This isn't only a story of money or menace, it's about how far people will go to turn loss into livelihood, and whether the river will forgive them for trying. Stay with us. And if you value hard work and healthy seas, hit like and subscribe. It keeps these reports coming. Before sunrise, the river lies in half-light cold, silent, waiting. The diesel engines wake first, grumbling like old beasts. On deck, 5 men move in rhythm. They no longer need to speak. Gloves slap metal. Ice chips scatter. The net piles gleam with a thin frost. They've done this 1,000 thank you M's. Yet every day feels like the first throw into uncertainty. The Mississippi looks calm, but beneath it runs a war. A war of motion, of numbers, of survival. Asian carp, silver, and bighead glide just below the surface. They are thick as grass, packed by millions. A moving field of muscle and hunger. At the rumble of an engine, they rise. The first leaps break the water, flashing bright in morning light. Within seconds, a storm of bodies fills the air. The men duck, curse, and laugh all at once. Because here, danger and routine share the same breath. Each fish can weigh over 60 pounds, yet move faster than reflex. They slam into aluminum hulls, bruise arms, split lips. But each one is also money, about $9 a piece if the grade is clean. The crew knows the math by heart. One good day can mean several $1,000s. One bad throw, a torn net or spoiled hold, can erase a week's wage. The foreman, gray-bearded and quiet, checks the thermometer inside the hold. 32 degrees Fahrenheit. He nods once. That number means survival. Not just for the catch, but for the paycheck. Too warm, and the meat turns soft. Too cold, and the ice burns the skin. Precision matters more than luck. He signals the first set. The winch groans, feeding the net into the murky current. It stretches wide, 4-inch mesh, 200 yards long, a barrier of human calculation dropped into an alien tide. Somewhere beyond sight, the floats begin to dance. That's the signal. The fish are here. They haul slow, steady, methodical. The sound is a symphony of grit, rope squeal, metal clang, water slap. Each pull draws up weight and resistance. The river fights back. The men's shoulders strain. Their boots slide on the slick deck. One yells as a carp the size of a child bursts from the mesh, twisting midair before crashing against a crate. Its scales scatter like coins in sunlight. Hold steady, the foreman shouts, voice cutting through the wind. They pull again. The winch jerks once, then stops. A heavy thump follows. Something's wrong. The rope snaps tight, vibrating like a drawn bowstring. The deckhand reaches for the lever, but it's jammed. Too much weight. The current has trapped the net under driftwood, or maybe a dozen fish tangled together. The hull leans slightly, enough for water to kiss the edge of the deck. Everyone freezes. One bad move, and a ton of writhing fish could drag the entire rig sideways. The river doesn't forgive carelessness. The youngest man grabs a hook pole, trying to shift the load. Another loosens the spool. The net releases a sudden sigh, a surge of bubbles. Then the tension drops. They're safe. The crew exhales, half laughing, half shaking. Another small battle won. But beneath that relief lies the same thought that never fades. Every pound they haul keeps the river cleaner and pushes them one storm closer to risk. As they empty the net, tossing carp into iced bins, the river surface flattens again. Steam rises. The sun lifts slow and indifferent. On the horizon, a dark smear of clouds builds where sky meets water. It's too early for a storm, yet the wind carries a new chill the kind fishermen recognize before forecasts confirm. The foreman wipes his hands, squinting west. "Finish this set," he says quietly. "Then we'll see what's coming." The men nod, silent again. The rhythm of work, returning. Steel creaks. Ice hums in the bins. The Mississippi flows on, wide and relentless, unaware of the war waged upon its back. And above them, the first gull circles low. A warning, or perhaps an omen. By mid-morning, the fog has lifted. The Mississippi gleams like a sheet of hammered tin. On the deck, the crew moves slower now, not from fatigue, but calculation. The first haul weighed in at nearly 10 tons. That means money, yes, but also paperwork. Every pound must be logged, tagged, and matched to the state quota. This is not wild fishing. This is control, a government-sanctioned harvest designed to thin an invader's ranks. Every permit specifies how long they can fish, how deep they can set, how fast they can move between stations. To some, it feels like bureaucracy. To others, it's the only thread holding chaos together. The legal window opens in late spring, when the river warms to 60 degrees Fahrenheit and the carp rise from the depths to spawn. Their silver bodies gather by the thousands near tributary mouths: Illinois, Wabash, Yazoo, names written in both geography and struggle. If the crews wait too long, the fish scatter. If they move too early, the bycatch risk rises, dragging native catfish and paddlefish into unintended nets. Each decision here is a wager between thank you M and ethics. The men know the rule: catch the invader, spare the resident. Yet the river doesn't separate right from wrong. It only gives what it has: turbulence, mud, motion. The foreman flips through the logbook, the pages damp and smudged. 2 sets done, he mutters. We're clear till noon. That phrase, clear till noon, means the current quota hasn't been breached. The inspectors haven't radioed, and the crew can keep hauling. It also means the danger hour hasn't arrived yet. By midday, winds pick up along the bends. Barges pass closer, their wake pounding small boats like fists. A young deckhand named Cole checks the GPS. 37 degrees north, somewhere near the confluence with the Illinois River. The data point means little to outsiders, but to them, it's a battlefield coordinate, one of the last legal zones before restricted waters begin. Beyond that line, sensors watch for every entry, and penalties: climb fast, fines, license suspensions, even boat seizure. Still, the temptation is always there. More fish mean more cash. The processors in Peoria pay premium for large silver carp fillet grade. Firm flesh, no bruises. Each extra ton could add $10,000. But the permits are clear: 100 tons maximum for the season. Go over, and the fine alone erases the profit. Cole peers over the rail. The water boils with movement. Carp flash, just beneath the surface, twisting in sunlight. It looks easy: just scoop, fill, and profit. But the foreman's hand clamps on his shoulder. Don't rush, he says. The river always takes back what you steal. He's not talking superstition. In the early days of the program, crews ignored quotas. Some even hauled double, hiding loads under false paperwork. The state cracked down hard after a single season's overharvest caused a bycatch spike in native buffalo fish. Since then, observers rotate on random patrols. Every cooler, every net, every tag is subject to inspection. The system may seem tight, but cracks always form. Some traders skirt rules by buying live carp from poachers upriver, smuggling them across state lines, where bans still exist. One small shipment can undo years of containment. It's why biologists call this war non-linear. Progress and collapse often look the same until it's too late. A radio crackles from the cabin. A voice from the Illinois Fisheries Division. Attention vessels in Sector 4, barrier voltage test at Chicago Lock, scheduled this afternoon. Maintain communication and report if activity observed near junction. The men glance at each other. The message means one thing: the electric fence guarding the Great Lakes will be temporarily weakened for maintenance. During those hours, scientists rely on current flow and water velocity to hold back any drifting larvae. But no one trusts physics entirely. Not when a species can breed 1 million offspring from a single female. The foreman exhales through his nose. "That's 60 miles from here," he says quietly. "Close enough to make the news if it fails." They keep working, but something in the air shifts. Conversations fade. The sound of the winch grows sharper, the rhythm more deliberate. The catch piles up, silver against blue plastic bins, each thud echoing like a heartbeat. Around noon, the temperature climbs to 70. The river's skin glitters, deceptive in its peace. They haul the final set before lunch. 3,000 pounds even. Cole marks the number on the logboard with a shaking pen. Beside Hyam, another crew member checks dissolved oxygen levels with a handheld meter protocol for live storage. The reading hovers low, a reminder that too many bodies in one tank can turn the water lethal within minutes. As the last fish slides down the chute, and the sky darkens slightly, the same gray curtain they saw that morning, now pressing closer. The foreman wipes sweat from his brow. "Pack it down," he orders. "We'll ride north before the wind turns." He doesn't say it aloud, but everyone feels it. The season's balance hangs on small margins: voltage, weather, human patience. One failure in any of those, and the barrier breaks, either in law or in nature. They start the engines again, heading toward the next sector, unaware that far upstream, engineers are already gathering near the Chicago lock, preparing for an afternoon test that could change the entire fight against the invader. And somewhere between those 2 points, between regulation and instinct, between profit and peril, the river keeps its own counsel. It always does. The clouds close tighter over the water, drawing the horizon into a single dark line. The harvest isn't over. It's only begun. By early afternoon, the wind has teeth. It cuts across the deck in short, cold bursts that sting the skin and whistle through the winch cables. The clouds that had loomed distant in the morning now roll low and dark, swallowing the horizon. The Mississippi turns from silver to slate. Waves slap the hull, rhythmic but heavy, as if the river itself is reminding the crew that it's alive. The foreman signals a slower speed. The barge traffic ahead has thickened long, steel monsters crawling upstream, pushing walls of water that slam into smaller boats. The crew tightens the tie-downs on the bins, adjusts the ice covers, and braces for the next run. They still have one more set to haul before day's end. Below deck, the generator hums unevenly. The mechanic frowns, tapping the gauge. Voltage is dipping. The chillers that keep the fish at 33 degrees can't afford a power drop. Without proper cooling, the flesh will soften, and the grade will fall, maybe to bait price, a fraction of what they need. He pulls a wrench, crouching low beside the metal casing. Sparks jump. The smell of oil mixes with river spray. Above Hyam, the winch groans to life again. The net goes out 4-inch mesh, weighted with lead line, sinking slow into the gray water. The deckhands move with practiced urgency, guiding the floats as gusts rock the boat side to side. Within minutes, the first tug comes. The rope jerks, then another, then a surge, heavy, unyielding. The winch motor strains, letting out a guttural whine. Fish are packed tight, a solid curtain of muscle, thrashing against nylon. The crew braces their boots, leaning backward with each pull. The river answers with resistance, pulling them toward its center. When the net breaks the surface, it's pure motion, hundreds of carp rolling, flashing, gasping. Water explodes in silver arcs. One fish slams into the railing, another into the ice bin. Cole ducks just in. "Thank you, M." The slap echoes like thunder. The foreman shouts above the roar. "Keep it clean. No bruises." "The Clarendon Strettench you have." The line between chaos and order is measured in seconds. Every bruise means money lost. Export buyers in Peoria pay by grade. Top quality fetches $9 a fish. Medium, barely 5. And if temperature logs show a rise above 34 degrees for more than 10 minutes, the entire lot can be rejected. On deck, precision becomes religion. One man bleeds the fish, a swift cut near the gills to drain blood and prevent spoilage. Another rinses with chilled river water. A third packs crushed ice into bins, layering carp like cold bricks. They work in rhythm, bleed, rinse, chill. It's not art, but it's survival dressed as routine. The radio crackles. Dock report. Grade drop in Sector 2 moisture test failed. That means someone upriver lost a shipment. Too warm, too slow, too careless. The processors are tightening inspection. It's both warning and opportunity. If this crew keeps their quality high, they'll secure priority contracts for the next month, a difference of tens of thousands of dollars. The mechanic finally stands, wiping grease from his hands. Voltage stable, he says. The chillers hum steady again. Relief moves through the deck like a quiet tide. But above them, thunder grumbles far away. The storm they've been watching has crossed into their sector. The first drops hit like cold needles. Rain quickly becomes sheets. Visibility collapses to 20 yards. The foreman orders all hands to secure. The deck is slick. The ice spins overflowing with meltwater. One wrong step could send a man overboard. They lash ropes, crouching low as lightning flickers across the current. For 15 minutes, the storm rains. The sound of rain on steel drowns every thought. The river foams, thick and brown. But then, as quickly as it came, the front passes. The clouds thin to gray ribbons, leaving a strange, electric calm. The air smells of iron and ozone. They finish the set in silence. The hull is smaller, maybe 6 tons, but cleaner. The fish shimmer under the clouded sun, scales glinting like coins. The foreman knows that every one of them is a line item on tomorrow's ledger. He looks at the hold thermometer again. Still 33 degrees. Still perfect. By the thank you aim, they reach the dock. The day has turned pale. Forklifts line the pier, engines idling. Inspectors from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources wait with clipboards and thermometers. Each bin is weighed, tagged, and logged. Lot numbers are assigned, connecting each batch to the vessel ID and catch coordinates. One inspector kneels beside the hold, measuring temperature with a digital probe. 33.2, he says. The foreman nods within spec. Then another clipboard appears. But your brine sample's cloudy, the inspector adds. Might need a retest. A retest means delay. A delay means melt. The foreman forces a neutral smile, hiding the worry under his weathered calm. Run it again, he says. We'll wait. Minutes stretch. The men stand by the rail, watching seagulls dive at discarded scales. The mechanic lights a cigarette, shielding the flame from the wind. The inspector returns finally, paper in hand. Cleared. He says, "You're good to unload." Relief again. Quiet, invisible, but deep. The crew exhales as the forklift lifts the first bin. Every ton cleared here moves them one step closer to that $900,000 goal. But as the last crate leaves the deck, the radio crackles again, a sharp burst that cuts through the noise. Attention all vessels. Chicago barrier voltage test delayed due to sensor failure. Possible current drop expected overnight. The foreman's head tilts. The others freeze. A voltage drop means risk a gap in the only line keeping Asian carp from the Great Lakes. The mechanic mutters, "If they slip through tonight?" The foreman cuts Hyam off. "Not our call," he says, but his voice carries weight, not confidence. Just resolve, worn thin. The dock lights flicker as evening sets. The river quiets, dark and watchful. And somewhere upstream, beyond the reach of their nets, the barrier hums steady, but not unbreakable. The storm may have passed, but the real one hasn't yet begun. Dawn, again. A different light. Softer, but colder. The boats idle beside the processing dock in Peoria, Illinois, a place where the noise never stops. Metal doors slam. Conveyor belts hum. Steam rises from the vents, as if the buildings themselves are exhaling after a long night. Inside, the air smells of brine and iron. Fish slide down stainless chutes, bodies glistening under fluorescent lamps. Workers in aprons and rubber gloves move with clockwork precision, slicing, priming, weighing. Each fillet lands on a digital scale before being vacuum sealed, labeled, and boxed. Above them, the sorting screen flashes batch codes, vessel ID, river section, thank you stamp. Every number tells a story not of adventure, but of compliance. The facility runs under strict HACCP protocol. Temperatures logged every 30 minutes. Sanitizers sprayed after each load. The blast freezer, a steel chamber colder than an Arctic wind, roars at -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside, 100 tons of carp will turn rigid in less than 4 hours, a transformation from chaos to commodity. On the upper platform, the quality officer checks a clipboard marked MSC verification, lot 67 amperes. The Marine Stewardship Council requires proof that every fish processed here was caught legally, within the invasive control zone. She cross-checks the coordinates from the vessel's e-logbook, Mississippi River, Sector 4. Verified. The barcode scanner beeps once, approving the shipment for export. Traceability is everything now. From river to dock to plant, each fish is tagged with a code that can be traced back to the man who pulled it from the net. It's transparency turned into survival, a shield against black market traders who still move live carp through hidden channels. The plant manager, a former fisherman high himself, walks the line with quiet pride. "It's strange," he says, turning a pest into a paycheck. He nods toward the pallets, waiting for loading. But it keeps families working, and maybe keeps the river breathing. Forklifts rumble past, carrying frozen boxes stamped product of USA, silver carp. The destination tags read Shanghai, Hanoi, Accra. In those cities, this fish is not a curse, but a meal. High protein, low fat, affordable. The irony runs deep. What America calls a threat, the rest of the world calls dinner. Near the end of the hall, another section buzzes with smaller operations, processing bones into fertilizer, skin into collagen, and heads into fish meal for livestock. Nothing is wasted. Zero waste isn't just a slogan. It's economics. Every part of the fish must earn its keep. Outside, the foreman from yesterday's harvest stands by a forklift, signing release forms. He's tired but alert, his hands red from cold and paperwork. The buyer approaches a logistics agent from an export company. They talk in numbers: tonnage, price per pound, fuel offset, freight insurance. The deal finalizes at $900,000, rounded after deductions. Not a fortune, but a lifeline. A whistle blows. Break. Thank you, M. Workers gather near the dock, sipping coffee that steams against the chill. Their laughter mixes with the sound of forklifts and the screech of gulls circling overhead. For a moment, the world feels simple: a day's work for a day's wage. But in this business, simplicity never lasts. Back inside, an auditor from the Illinois Department of Agriculture checks documentation for e-logbook compliance. He flips through pages, eyes scanning signatures, temperature logs, inspection stamps. "Looks clean," he says, "but we'll need to review your observer records next week." Observer records, those are the eyes of the law on the water. Randomly assigned officers board boats during the season to verify catch methods, mesh sizes, and species ratios. Any discrepancy, even unintentional, can trigger suspension or fines. The plant manager nods. Professional, but cautious. All recorded. He says, "No bycatch. Beyond threshold." The auditor scribbles a note. "Good. Keep it that way." Beyond compliance, another voice enters the conversation. One, older, quieter, but just as important. Representatives from the local tribal council visit the plant twice a month. Their focus isn't regulation, but respect. The rivers once fed their ancestors. Now, they carry both memory and warning. In one corner, a native elder observes the process, murmuring softly in his language, offering thanks for the harvest and hoping balance returns. The camera would linger here on the faces, on the steam, on the rhythm of transformation, from invader to export, from chaos to system. Yet, beneath the surface, tension remains. Reports come in through NOAA channels, genetic traces of Asian carp DNA found closer to the Great Lakes barrier. The news spreads quietly among scientists, not panic, but unease. By afternoon, trucks roll out from the dock, heading toward refrigerated depots on the interstate. Each one carries product worth thousands of dollars, and an invisible question: can industry be both cure and continuation of the problem? At the end of the shift, the plant floor quiets. The lights dim one row at a "thank you, M." The manager logs out of the compliance terminal. On his screen, a line reads, "All shipments cleared, awaiting final export certificate." He shuts it down, unaware that several hundred miles away, in Chicago, engineers are still working through the night to stabilize the barrier's power supply. The current has dropped again, not dangerously low, but enough to make them nervous. The barrier hums like a metallic heartbeat. The river moves above it, endless and unbothered. Between commerce and catastrophe lies a strip of voltage, invisible yet vital. And as night settles over Illinois, both systems, the factory and the fence, continue their vigil. One keeps the fish frozen, the other keeps them from freedom. For now, both hold. By the week's end, the harvest is complete. 100 tons of Asian carp pulled from the river's skin and bones. $900,000 earned not as fortune, but as fragile balance. The Mississippi now runs quieter where the nets once hung. Gulls circle slower. The air carries the smell of diesel, ice, and victory laced with doubt. At the Peoria dock, paperwork thickens into proof. Manifests, invoices, HACCP certificates, export seals. Each signature means compliance. Each crate means control. On paper, the mission succeeded. Biomass reduced. Wages paid. Quotas met. But no document can measure what the river remembers. Scientists downstream sample the water. A new report arrives. Trace DNA detected again near the Chicago lock. Not proof of living fish, but a whisper that the invader still lingers. The engineers tighten voltage across the barrier. The hum grows louder, a sound between promise and warning. Back on shore, the crew spends the evening at a roadside diner. The foreman sits apart, stirring coffee gone cold. Around Hayem, conversation drifts between pride and exhaustion. One man jokes, $1 million from monsters. Another mutters, yeah, but the monsters keep coming. They know this truth. The river pays in cycles, not guarantees. Each season opens like a ledger hours. Gallons, tons, lives, and the balance can tip any time. Later, as dusk settles, the foreman walks alone to the pier. The water glows faintly under sodium lights. He stares at the surface, seeing not reflection, but history, floods of the 90s. The first escape, the endless leap of silver bodies. For all the gear and laws and factories, the fish still hold the advantage of numbers. Yet something else survives too: adaptation. The same human stubbornness that brought them here now fuels the will to repair. For every poacher, there is a scientist. For every reckless haul, a cautious hand. For every barrier failure, a redesign stronger than the last. Economists call it conversion. Ecologists call it containment. But to those who work these waters, it's simply life, earning from what must be endured. At the state office, officials finalize their report. Program effective. It reads, recommend continuation under fiscal year 26. Funding renewed. Jobs extended. Hope quantified. In classrooms, students learn about invasive species, power grids, and responsibility. In tribal gatherings, elders remind the young that a gift from water demands gratitude, even when that gift arrives as a problem. Across the ocean, in warehouses from Shanghai to Accra, frozen boxes marked silver carp thaw into meals for families who will never know the river's name. Protein for one nation, redemption for another. And still, beneath all the data and commerce, the same question lingers. Can a creature born from imbalance become the symbol of equilibrium? The foreman closes his logbook for the last thank you this season. His hands ache, his eyes sting, but he smiles faintly. We did what we could, he murmurs. The river answers only with the sound of current folding over stone. Night deepens. The barrier hums steady in the distance. For now, containment holds. For now, the ledger balances. But the story doesn't end here. It moves with the water, carrying both warning and wonder, reminding those who profit from the river that survival is never ownership, only partnership. The camera would fade here, a wide shot of the Mississippi under the pale moon, nets drying like silent flags, the hum of machines fading into the wind. And somewhere in that silence, a single question remains. When the river tests us again, will we still remember how to listen? The season ends where it began, on the river's edge, between noise and silence. What started as survival became something larger, a mirror of what humanity does when cornered by its own creation. From the chaos of leaping fish to the hum of electric barriers, every detail in this story reveals the same truth. Nature always negotiates, never surrenders. The fishermen, scientists, and engineers all fight on different fronts. Yet they share one fragile mission: to balance profit with protection, hunger with humility. 100 tons pulled, $900,000 earned. But the real value lies in restraint, in the choice to harvest just enough, to record every load, to hold the temperature steady, to measure ethics as carefully as weight. Out there, the river still runs restless. The barriers still hum. And somewhere beneath the current, a silver body turns, waiting for the next opening. The line between control and collapse remains thin as a fishing net. This story isn't about fish alone. It's about stewardship, about learning that every resource has a memory, every ecosystem a threshold, every victory a cost. If there's a lesson left from these waters, it's this: survival means more than staying afloat. It means knowing when to let the river breathe again. So, the boats return, the docks quiet, and the Mississippi fades into darkness, but the hum of vigilance remains steady, unseen, and necessary. Because the fight for balance never ends, it only pauses between tides. And if this story moved, you leave a thought below. Do you believe industry can protect what it profits from? Share your view in the comments. And subscribe to stay with us on the next journey, where money, law, and nature collide again on the world's wildest waters.